What's up, guys? Lucas here at Syntaur, and today I'm joined with a very special guest. His name is
Jorb.
Jorb, yes. Jorb does some awesome YouTube videos on gear, demonstrations, reviews, those sort of things. And today I'd like to have him on the podcast and sort of interview him and kind of have a chit chat, kind of have a conversation between two people that are kind of into the same field, but kind of two different parts of the country, and just kind of share our experiences with stuff. So today is episode 75, and if you like what you're seeing, you can go to our Patreon linked down below and send us some moolah to get more content. But yeah, so just go ahead and kick this off. So where did the name Jorb come from?
Jorb was a really intentional thing. It needs to be short and phonetic and easy to spell right. So for a while I was shopping out names, and I kind of landed on that. It's something that I had written in an email as a joke when I was in charge of a club for budding musicians, but that's a whole nother story. But I wrote it once and somebody thought it was funny, and then I just kept rolling with it. And when I was doing the YouTube thing, it needed to be short, easy to remember,
right,
uniquely phonetic, and that's where it came from.
Yeah, it kind of has like a I don't want to say like cartoonish, but kind of a
it's playful.
Yeah, it's playful. It has a kind of a nice ring to it. But
right.
So I guess how long have you been doing this sort of stuff?
I had put up some sketches, and I did one video about using the MPC 1000 as the center of a MIDI sequencing rig, because that was the first time I realized there isn't that many people talking about this, what I care about. And that was, I think, 2 years ago, that first hardware setup video, or maybe a little bit more, but a year ago, I was less than 1,000 subscribers a year ago, and a year before that is when I started covering the DeepMind, and that's when I started kicking off. So 2.5, 3 years, taking it seriously, really, for 2.
Yeah. What do you like? What do you like about it the most?
To me, it was just I'm so excited about these things. I'm so excited about gear that I had all these thoughts that I wanted to share. I wanted to get out, along with putting things together and realizing, this might be a good idea for a workflow. This might be a good idea for pairing two pieces of things together. And I want to tell it to people just so they know, and maybe they can try it and it'll work for them. But I've really been surprised by how positive it is. I don't get that many mean comments, thankfully. And I don't think that's because of me. I think the community is just good because it's people who are enthusiastic,
Mm-hmm. And, I think it was your JX3P video.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what you were talking about, because I think you have a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
But really nice to hear someone share a lot of the same things about them. And I was like, wow, this guy's really cool. And then fast forward like 2 or 3 months, I think we met at KnobCon.
Right.
And that was pretty cool. So to be in that kind of event and have just, giant mass of people that are all into the same thing.
That's the thing about KnobCon is the first few times I realized, because I went in 2019, and that was the first time it dawned on me, everybody here understands what I love. Everybody here has, if I say Moog to somebody, they'll understand. They'll have an impression of that, or Roland, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just generally, people know what you're talking about. And that was great. And being able to meet the Syntaur guys, and you've done a great job with the videos.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really, I am a patron of Syntaur, proud to be.
Salute.
Yeah, highly recommended to you, the viewer. But it is a really amazing feeling to just know in advance, like, I'm going to go to this place where people are going to love what I love, and really be able to connect. And we've kept in pretty good touch since then.
Yeah, I see that. What's that, a Kai? Is that MX73 back there?
I think this is the X7000.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, this is the AX73. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's the Poly.
Poly said. From the top, they look exactly the same.
They look like giant, like medical equipment, but they look
do.
So
That's
cool.
Actually a great point.
Yeah.
That off gray.
Yeah, they look so cool. I've always been obsessed with the old Akai stuff. And
you're an MPC guy, yeah?
Yeah, and I had the MPC 2000 when I was younger, like 15 or 14. I got one.
Really?
Like in Fire Damage, some guy had one and it was just black. It was like tarred.
Whoa.
And I got it for $100. because it still worked, and that's what I had for a while, and then I
That's a
eventually.
cool thing to come up on. And I
Yeah.
didn't realize that part, because that kind of makes it's a 62. Is yours a 60 Mark II?
Yeah, 60 Mark II.
That kind of
Yeah.
makes sense, because that's been in your blood forever. You just, that's the way you've been working.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's kind of a love and hate relationship because
Yeah.
you want it so bad because of how cool it is, and then
Yes.
it has all the limitations and the weird, like, quirky little things that you're just not, you know what I mean? So
Have you tried the new stuff, the live or the one?
I haven't because they're kind of spendy, so I kind of just stay away from it. But there's a lot of good things on. I've seen all your NPC videos on that stuff, and I'm sure it's.
I'm a big fan of the live
Yeah.
too. It feels in a lot of ways the same way the 1000 did, because the 1000s, I had that from, as soon as I had MIDI gear to sequence. I only used the 1000.
Yeah, and the problem with like just like getting in gear and stuff, like that NPC, the 60, it doesn't send start and stop commands.
Really?
So if like I have the Behringer TD3, if I have the MIDI coming out of the 60 into the TD3, it won't trigger.
Can't trigger.
It can't trigger it, and so there's always like these weird workarounds where I have to record the 60 into Ableton and then track the 303 on top of it.
I got you.
You know what I mean? So it's I'm sure you
That's
have.
a shame.
Yeah, you have workarounds like that.
Yeah, but you run into the one time where, two specific pieces of gear don't want to play well together. And actually, the 1000 was my solution to a lot of those problems. If the 1000 is in between a couple other things, or the 1000 is sending my start-stop to a couple other pieces of gear, then I can stay together. But yes, I totally know that feeling of why aren't these played?
The 1000 sends start and stop.
It does. So, do, of course, the live, the modern stuff does. Are you moving up? 2004 is looking pretty good right now.
I used to have the 500.
Oh, really?
That ran on the double A's. Yeah.
Yeah, with the 9 pads.
Yeah, that was a pretty fun little portable little device. But
that's cool. I don't have any experience with those.
Yeah, they're a little weird, but anyway, enough with the gear talk.
So sorry.
No. I mean, everyone can relate to going down
Getting
that
excited.
route. Yeah, but you make these videos on these certain devices, and do you think that it feels good to do that? You know what I mean? Like, it feels good to put stuff out there for people to understand how things work and sort of, I don't know, show things that people don't necessarily would have an idea about.
Sometimes the way I explain something might be the exact right way for somebody, or sometimes the way somebody else explains something might be perfect for me. Is that sort of what you're getting at?
Yeah, like, I feel like I have the question right here, but I can't think of it.
Sure, we'll get there.
Yeah. But I don't want to ask like basic questions. I'm trying to think of good questions.
Go ahead.
Like, what's your favorite album? Like, trying to think of good questions.
But I like where this one is going. I like the idea of, what I'm doing is in some ways very rote. In some ways, it's like a textbook page, right?
Right.
Parts of what I do are do this, do this, do this. Like, follow these steps.
Right.
Right? But the things I decide are important and the way I choose to explain it is different from anybody else. And I'm trying to think of the first time that clicked for me. I feel like it was a Loop-Hop video. He's quite clinical. I don't know if you're familiar. I'm sure you are.
Yeah.
I was watching him. It might have been the Op 6 or something. And it just is that exact sensation of however he described the way the faders worked, relative to an operator in a certain mode. I was like, oh, now I understand. And that's what I hope to do. I hope to connect that one final, whatever synapse for somebody. I want to bridge those two things for somebody and enable them to be more creative. That's the whole goal with this. And if I include one part or I describe something in a certain way, maybe that's the perfect way for an individual viewer. And that's sort of why I keep doing it, because I keep getting comments that people are saying, oh, a lot of the DeepMind stuff, nobody's covered this in this way, or nobody's talked about this in this way. Thank you for pointing this out. And some of the hardware, using the Live 2 as like a hardware brain, I've had people same thing all the time. Thanks for putting these things together, or the way these two things are working together is exactly what I was trying to do. Thanks for your help. Those are the real motivators. I'm sure you guys get that all the time.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting to just look at like how YouTube is and how all this stuff is, because I mean, it's like we have these platforms and we make content for people out of our hearts. You know what I mean? And it's kind of just like this really kind of cool thing that we're all kind of a part of, and people can do it, you know? It's not that you have to have a lot of money or you have to have cool gear to do stuff. I mean, it's like, you know, just starting somewhere and going from there and working your way up. I mean, did you see yourself getting to where you are now when you started?
I try and not think that far in the future about this specifically because I get a little too bold sometimes. But did I a year ago think I would be at 9,500? Did I think I would almost be at 10,000 subscribers by now? Absolutely not. And I don't know if that's luck or happenstance to make it here, but I think talking about gear and synthesizers specifically is a really interesting space on YouTube because it's not like a guitar. There's a functional thing you need to understand. There's a way of interacting with an individual piece of gear that's unique to it. Like any synthesizer you get will not be identical to any other. And so people are seeking out that information, that learning. On the other hand, they're instruments. It's music. It's about art. And so you get so many multi-dimensional
It's like
creators.
subjective almost, you know, because there's so many.
Half of it is, But how to sit down and use something might not be.
Right.
And so you get this full spectrum. And I think, to credit you, I think of Syntaur and a lot of the Synth Wizard stuffs before you and during your time doing the videos is a good balance of that because there is a narrative to follow. Right. And we, as creators, as artists into musical instruments, appreciate that. And Sam will explain some pretty complicated repair stuff, sometimes thrown into the beginning or the middle of a video. I think of the Octave Cat video, where there's so many dimensions of why this is interesting to somebody like me. I think you guys balance it out quite well. And that's something that I try and actively stay aware of is I'm teaching people things and I'm presenting art and I'm delivering a narrative because that's what watching a video is like. And I think that's why it's so interesting and why it is still so fun. Yeah. You must understand that because you're trying to craft the videos.
It can be a hard thing and it can also be an easy thing with certain things because you have, like, it seems like our audience, you know, if you go in the Google stats and you can see who your general market is, it's like ours is like 45 to 55 aged men. And I think we have like a 0.1% female audience. And
mine is the same, so it's very gratifying to hear that it's not just a me problem.
But so it's like most of our audience is usually people that are like you that are into this sort of thing, that like technical stuff. And then there's a part of that target audience that's more kind of, they like quick, easy, fast, no filler type stuff. So you have this line that you kind of have to balance between like how technical do you get with stuff versus how like entertaining stuff can get, because if you lean too much one way or the other, you're just going to get comments that are people complaining,
disliking that or disliking
exactly that. And I've seen a few comments on your videos that are just kind of like that are just stupid, like people that don't I don't want to mean to put people down, but it's just like,
I know what you mean.
Yeah, you gotta be tough with it, and you gotta have thick skin, and I think that's what Espen Kraft was talking about. He put out some video about that, and
sometimes people just have an opinion ready to go and don't take anything new from a video,
right?
You know, whether you displayed it in a different light or not. I've gotten a couple just bizarre, really, but I don't. It doesn't bother me. It's the internet.
You just let it roll off your back, you know. It's just going. Whatever, and
mine are overwhelmingly positive, I will say.
That's good.
Yes, good. If it's my own fault, thank goodness for it. But
you do such a great job with your channel, and
I'm flattered.
Yeah, and just keep at it, stick with it, and you have a consistent style. And,
I appreciate it. That means a lot. Then the acknowledgement of style from you does mean a lot.
Yeah, and because it's so important, you know, like especially on YouTube with like thumbnails and you know the sort of clickbaity stuff there is out there, and
I try and find as much as I'm comfortable with that. For a long time I didn't want to put my face on camera at all, but it clicked for me that the uniqueness is very easy to sell when you're interacting with an individual,
right?
And when it's very clearly me talking to the viewer, whoever that is, it feels better for me too. So instead of trying to write like an essay, you know, maybe 4 or 5 months into what I was working on, I tried to treat my outlines like having a conversation.
Yeah. Do you script your stuff much?
I do outlines. So I will script certain things, I still struggle. I really struggle to give the pitch and tell people to subscribe and comment. I just can't do it. So I will just like, I won't script that on purpose because I know it'll be funnier if I mess it up, and I just leave those in all the time because it's not worth it for me to try and perfect that. But I do outlines. I know your guys' stuff is pretty well blocked out.
Our Synth Wizard stuff is usually pretty well scripted, and then we have like time codes and marks of what and what. And Sam can see all the footage that I shoot, so he can mark certain sections, and then other times it's like, we don't know what to put here, so make something work. But it's just kind of like the classic film. You know,
cool.
It's hard, and then, you know, like the cat episode where Carlos was fixing the octave cat, and I don't know how long that. I mean, it went on for like 2 months of just pure
catch
hell.
Some footage, try something else, catch some
footage.
And is that when the solution was the board was just dirty?
Yeah, and it's always the most simple thing when it comes to tech work. And I mean, he did everything and to try to fix, and he was pulling his hair out, and I was filming everything. So I have all this footage of that. Like the footage of him walking around with the boards being all mad was real, of him, like actual reactions of him. And
I love that. Release the Carlos cut. I want to watch
the director's cut, the 5-hour long Blade Runner version. But it's just so funny how that happens. That there's more of a candid kind of style to it that I try to grab with stuff. You know, if you hide behind something and try to catch something, you get a real reaction. But
I started leaving the camera on when I unbox stuff, and the first time I turn anything and try and get any sounds, because you're right, there's a spontaneity to it that can really sell something, or really, like, my impression can be completely genuine.
Yeah. And
for a while, I didn't do first impressions videos because, to me, I want to give people good information. I don't want to say, oh, I think this might work and try that, but I've changed my mind about that since. And those first few moments with an instrument can be really, really special and can reveal some sort of insight for what it's like to actually sit and use it. If something's confusing to me, and I think I know my way around a lot of gear by now, that might, you know, have somebody dig a little deeper into that feature, find out if it does work for them or not. So yes, the spontaneity of that and trying to capture the right moment is a big part of this.
Is there any moments that have stuck out to you?
Things that when I did a video, we just talked about the Akai, but the X7000 is like a keyboard sampler, and you can run it through the 73 and the AX60.
Is it the filter?
You can run it through the filter and the amp and everything. And I recorded the worst. I tried to hold a note with my voice, completely missed, completely failed, completely dropped the note. And I was like, is this funny? Is this interesting? And then I played it with all 6, you know, I played a full chord, and it was more interesting than, you know, it would have been if I was a good singer. So that's a pretty small one, but just, hey, you know what? That sounds interesting. I'm not going to redo that. People don't need to know, you know. I don't care if the people think I can hold a note or not.
Yeah.
I'll put that out there. So, yeah. And actually, I just did Roland the JS30, which is like this 8-bit sampler. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, that was really cool.
With those. What a weird thing. Anyway, this is a totally different dimension of, an accident. But when I opened it up, it smelled like a smoky garage. It smelled like cigarettes and a garage. And you can hear me go, oh, no. It's kind of smoky. So I left
those are the capacitors, not cigarette smoke.
Yes, that's what I'm telling people.
Yeah. But we've had a few bad moments on camera. Like when I first got here, we got an Iridium when they first arrived. And when they first shipped out. And Carlos was all super excited about it. So I was like, all right, we'll film him opening it up for the first time, and we'll use it for our new Synth Wizards episode that got delayed 3 years, but we're about to finish it now because of COVID. And
can't wait.
Yeah, and he opened it up, and the display fell out in the unit. And apparently, I guess the first few batches of them had bad displays. I think they fixed it. It's not a problem anymore, but it was just funny to capture that on camera because everyone was just like, that's not supposed to.
Now what do we do?
Yeah. But
that's funny.
Have you had anything like that happen?
Any little, I was, there's a mod for the Korg ARP Odyssey where the LFO becomes free running, and I just completely, there's a trace on just like a tiny surface mount transistor you have to lift And so it's either you cut the trace and then solder wires above it to make it a switch, or you lift the leg and solder wire to the leg. And just in the middle of lifting the leg, too much pressure, too much heat, and I broke the thing in half. So I didn't have audio on for that, and I was so hoping I did, because I just go, oh my God! But you can see me break it, and then there's like that one take goes on for like 6 minutes when I'm like, where did that go? Do I have a replacement? But it ended up being not that big of a problem. But yes, like, I'm supposed to be teaching people the right way to fix these things. And here I am obliterating a transistor.
But I mean, anything can go wrong. It's like
true.
There's so many on a board or a piece of gear. There's just so many things that it could, especially when you're diagnosing what something is broken. It's really like it's like solving a bomb. Honestly, like which wire do you cut?
It is. And how do they relate to each other?
Yeah.
I've been working on an octave kitten for a very long time, and I have tons of footage of me scrolling on my phone looking for some resources. And so it's going to be a pain to dig through. But there is a lot of me trying things that don't turn out. And actually with the JS30, there's 15 minutes of me trying to clean and then explaining how I tried to clean the potentiometers that I cut, because I just didn't think it was, this is all the things I did. Oh, and it didn't work. I don't like the arc of that. And if I give enough good information for everything else, I don't feel like it's lacking. You know? So if that turned out to be the solution, yes, I'll include it. But
and there's something about watching somebody trying to diagnose something, even because you would think if you filmed yourself working on a keyboard and it didn't, like you didn't get anywhere for like 4 hours, and then all of a sudden you figured it out. Like those 4 hours, you would think you would want to cut because it didn't get anywhere. But it's like, if you're a tech and you watch those 4 hours, it's incredibly like entertaining, because you get to watch somebody go through that same like dilemma of like just freaking out, and there's something, there's a few videos.
There's something
like
to the process.
Exactly, and it's almost therapeutic, because you feel the pain of trying to figure
to
something
see somebody
out.
else step through it too. And I've gone back and forth on the way I want to present repair content, because I do think there's a lot of value in, I'm going to turn the camera on every time I have a new idea, and you see the entire, process. I don't know that that's necessarily the right move for me, but there's a pretty, I think it's a small-ish channel, Golt, G-O-L-T, probably subconsciously inspired Jorb, but there's a few videos of him working on. Go, what's that?
I was just like, maybe.
Because I watched him.
Jolt, yeah.
But like he fixes an AX60, and he developed a new power supply for the AX60. But they're pretty long-winded, process-driven things, and I love that. I don't think I have enough insight for those to be that good. I'm not to downplay myself really, but I'm not a great, if I sit down and look at a circuit, I can't really understand it. I need a schematic. I need to be able to trace. But functionally, I can replace capacitors no problem. And I can identify the sort of parts I need to order to replace those, and key contacts and diagnosing problems like from top down, this doesn't work, what might affect that, I can do that. But to sit down at a circuit and understand it, and without a lot of thought, know where to look next, that's not really me.
Yeah,
and I'm actually very proud to be like that.
To be very like go-to on stuff, not very like detailed.
Kind of, but to solve my problems intuitively, and not like I have this electrical engineering background. I really do not, but just tenacity to over and over and over again try things until I get it wrong, really, and to have fixed enough things at this point that where to start is sort of not hard to figure out anymore. I could sit down with something and the classic one with synthesizers, and I'm sure a lot of the viewers will know, you just need to replace the battery and reload the presets.
Factory
it's
reset.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yes. It's amazing how often that's all a synth needs, and maybe that manifests a little bit differently in a different piece of gear, but that's a great place to start. And then replacing all the electrolytic capacitors, some people will say, you should understand what you're doing before you try and tear parts out and change them out, but the way it works for me, if there's something I can't explain or voltages that I can measure that aren't quite right, I'll just replace all the electrolytics because it'll need to happen eventually. And even if it's not my problem, it's one less thing to look for.
Yeah, and especially when you're dealing with like old gear, because if you're already working on it and you have it open and it's like, oh, this is 20, 30 years old, it's like, there's only 6 capacitors on the power supply. I should just go ahead and do it before they start leaking and damage a bunch of stuff. But yeah. So, I mean, I know you said you don't really look forward in the future too much, but where do you think you see yourself in a few years?
I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna let this take me wherever it can. I keep surprising myself a little bit with the things I've been able to do, and really that's all because people are watching and people are giving me good feedback, and I've made some great connections with other people around the community, you certainly, and some other people I've met, and just constantly being surprised by how many other people are enthusiastic about this. So where do I see myself doing exactly what I'm doing. If the numbers are bigger, the numbers are bigger, and I'm quite proud of that, but I don't.
I definitely think there's more because of people like us and all the other awesome content creators out there. It's just kind of like, I think more people are becoming more familiar with this kind of stuff. And I mean, if you show somebody like a mini log, someone on the side of the street or something, they might be like, I didn't, what? Like that's so cool, and it's sharing this kind of
enthusiasm,
fun world, enthusiasm, and
that's a good point. People are more excited about it, and with how much of popular music is, people marketed as DJs or this or that, there's more of an understanding of what it's like to work with electronic music, and people are hearing these sounds that they want to recreate on their own. Plus, how easy it is to sit down at a computer and try VSTs.
And we're living in the golden age of.
We really are.
Yeah.
We really are.
We're so spoiled.
We are living in the perfect time.
Yeah.
Well, because I appreciate vintage stuff, and it's still around, and the resources exist for me to fix it. And also in the background, actually, my mini log. The mini log is a great example of let's make analog synths fresh and new and exciting. It's so cool. On top of my completely outdated, if you want to regard it like that, my Rhodes, my Wurlitzer.
What Rhodes is it?
But just that's a Mark II from late '79, I believe. But it's a suitcase without, so it has the preamp, but I don't have the satellite speakers. And the Wurlitzer is a 200. I can't remember the year.
Which one do you like better?
They're very different. I feel more connected to the sound and the sensation of playing the Wurlitzer. But every time I sit down with the Rhodes, it's special as well. So I need to downsize. I need to get rid of one of them, but it's hard to. Anyway, just how cool it is that there's still room in music for a Rhodes and a Wurlitzer, and there's still room in music for old analog synthesizers. We are living in the best time because all of it is available, and all of it is still relevant.
New stuff coming out, and there's always different ways to do stuff, and I'm really excited for like the new Iridium's coming out, the keybed version, and getting into like granular and doing the real kind of real manipulation with stuff. And
the real nitty-gritty programming.
Yeah, stuff that you could only really do with computers, and now starting to see it in hardware and more affordable. And of course, it's just going to keep getting like that. More and more people will be accessible to it, and
it's such a fascinating thing because the old way is cool and relevant. I think because music has some sort of built-in nostalgia, and music is inseparable from what inspired it. And part of that is the instruments that it was used on. Look at like the Prophet 5 reissue. Yeah. Those sounds are still cool. Those sounds are still valuable. On the other hand, you can take parts of those, in analog filter, or the way you program an analog filter, or, programming something to sound like an analog filter for things like the Iridium. And its inspirations can be all across the history of synthesis and music technology. It's amazing. We are living in the golden age. You're 100% correct.
And it's crazy because everything's at your disposal. I mean, it's not what you don't have; it's what you do with what you have.
Well said. And it is.
Yeah, you don't always need the best gear. You just need something that you work with and you do really good with, and something
that inspires you.
Exactly, and that's the most important thing out there. So,
and for you, it's that MPC behind you.
Yeah, it inspires me sometimes, but the limitations are definitely there. I use my S1000 a little bit more, but
Okay.
I think it's a little more.
But there's somebody who would hate to sit down with those.
Oh, dude, I can't. Dude, it took me forever to figure it out. I mean, it's the same guy that did the OS for the. What was that guy that worked for Novation? He did the Oxford oscillators. He passed away recently. He did the Wasp and the Oscar.
Oh.
I can't think of his name.
That's a serious lineage.
Chris Huggett.
Okay.
He wrote the OS for the S1000, surprisingly.
Really?
And
that's an amazing lineage.
Yeah, and it's funny because there's an option button on the front panel, and it literally does nothing, because there wasn't enough room on the thing. It's kind of a funny little feature. It doesn't do anything.
Wow.
Yeah, but
that's amazing.
Yeah, I like little quirks like that with gear, when you find out little pieces that don't really make sense, or like on the Emu.
Idiosyncrasies.
Yeah, on the Emu, there's a bird run where you can play the little. You ever seen that on the Emacs keyboard version? There's a little thing that's it's like a little video game that you can play on the sampler. Yeah.
Wow, really?
Yeah, on the Emacs. I think it's on the first one and the second one, but it's the big keyboard
That's
version.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's really rad.
Yeah, Emu and Sequential were really good about that, because Sequential always
little Easter eggs.
Yeah, little Easter eggs and stuff like that. But
I know Sequential would draw pictures on the circuit board, but that's cool about the Emu stuff.
Yeah, with that Prophet 10 that we have that we're working on, it had some girl named Mary, I think. It was either Mary or somebody else, but they had signed their name and put a heart on the circuit board. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was
That's really rad.
Yeah, kind of creative.
Something I do that I don't think I've ever mentioned, actually. Whenever I do work on a synthesizer, I put a piece of painter's tape on the inside case, and I write what I did, and I sign Jorb.
That's great, because the next time somebody opens it up and can have a clear idea of what. I wish that was more common.
Yeah, so whatever dozens of things I've had and moved on, my name's in both the Wurlitzer and the Rhodes, and just perchance in 10, 20 years when something else breaks, somebody like, I have a little bit of the idea, the history on this.
It'd be worth $2 million because your name's on it.
That's the future I'm looking forward to.
What was it, that CS5, Yamaha CS5 that Aphex signed his name on? It went for like 30 grand. And
there's a specific. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was done. Yeah, go ahead.
There's a specific Rhodes builder, and you can find the initials of whoever checked it. I can't remember his name, but there's a specific Rhodes builder that people will say, I think this is the era of that guy. And if they get to look inside, they're the special ones to the guys who are really the real ones.
Yeah. Well, shoot, man, this was a lot of fun. I appreciate.
This was nice.
Yeah, I appreciate coming on here and talking and doing this. And
I'm happy to do it. It's nice to talk to you, in a way that everybody can watch instead of just Instagram DMs. And I think Syntaur in every dimension is really a service and something wonderful for people like myself, being able to fix things, being able to learn things, and being able to watch the narrative stuff that you guys put together. So you should be proud to be a part of it. It really is a special thing.
Well,
I'm grateful to be on camera with you right now. So.
Well, I'm grateful to be on camera with you. Yeah, of course.
Thank you. And everybody check out the Patreon for Syntaur.
Yeah, and you have a Patreon too, right?
I do. I don't. Yeah. Again, I'm bad at plugging it.
Subscribe to Jorb and like his videos. Comment on every single one of his videos.
Say something rude.
Share it everywhere. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Everybody's already subscribed to Syntaur, so keep doing it.
The numbers are just going to go up. The stocks are going to go up. We're going to be like millionaires.
That's right. Syntaur forever. So.
Okay, so there's one thing we do when we sign off on the podcast, and I think you know what it is.
I do.
Okay, so are you ready?
I hope we can get it with the delay here, but I'm ready.
I could try to sync it, but all right.
You start it.
Okay. Modulator.
Modulator.